What's up? I told you I'd make another video and it wouldn't take me a year to do it. I got on Periscope. I wanted to talk about, I had a couple friends message me, or acquaintances on Facebook, about having wheat allergies or grain allergies and different disease, autoimmune disorders that come in various flavors, and how like food allergies can really relate to problems in those diseases. So I got on Periscope, and that was my first and it was terrifying. Like I was an actor, and you'd think I wouldn't get nervous, but I get really in my head. I think I said about 16 times that YouTube was a lot easier because I wasn't as nervous. And then you look down in the little right-hand corner, and it said like 56 people are watching you, and I was like, oh shit! Like, so I decided that I would do a YouTube video and hopefully get my train of thought together for those people that I was actually trying to put this out for, because like my nerves get the best of me, and I can't, like, it messes with your thinking. Like, you can't get the thoughts that you want. I didn't have anything written. I tend not to script these things. I was in Toastmasters for years. You think that I would like write a speech or prepare a speech, but I don't ever do that. So that being said, I have, and I've talked about this on my first video, but I had two acquaintances that hit me up and asked about, one of them didn't hit me up. I saw her post, and she said she was just diagnosed with a wheat allergy, like gluten allergy, but a true allergy is celiac disease. So if you have like a true allergy, you can't eat it, or XYZ happens. You get sick, you have irritable bowel syndrome like problems, like there's all kinds of signs and symptoms related to gluten intolerance. It's pretty crazy. Joint pain, basically any autoimmune response. I have a gluten intolerance. I don't think I have a true allergy. I've never been tested. But if I eat a lot of wheat and or drink a lot of beer, I get skin rashes that are really, they were diagnosed as eczema. Eczema and something else. But they're actually a gluten intolerance. I come from a gluten intolerance. So I was making this video for those people that have this problem, and it's becoming a massive epidemic. If you've read the book Wheat Belly, he talks about a 300% increase, and some of the studies you look at it, say even a 400% increase in gluten sensitivity. You know, and they say like anywhere from 1 to 2% of the population has a gluten allergy. And that's an allergy, not a intolerance, but an actual allergy. That's a lot of people. That's millions of people. So I dealt with it. So I just want to give my story and how long it took me to figure out what the hell it was. So when I worked in the oil field, I started having skin problems, and I started going to a dermatologist. Actually, I went to my doctor first. My doctor said that she thought I had scabies, and I remember going, there's no way I have scabies. Isn't that like a sexually transmitted disease or something? She's like, yeah. So I went and got a second opinion, and he diagnosed it as eczema. And then over the next probably year, like I had spots on my feet, on my back, on my chest, on the back of my arms, which that's another symptom. If you have like chicken skin, they call it chicken skin. It's like a rough patch on the back of your arms. A lot of times that's caused from gluten intolerance. So I went to another dermatologist because I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. And the treatment for autoimmune disorders is mostly as follows. You have an autoimmune response. So your body attacks something inside the body it deems as a threat. It's no different than a common allergy. So you're allergic to dogs or pollen. So when pollen gets in your nose, or cat dander or dog dander gets in your nose, your body goes, oh, that's not supposed to be here. But it misdiagnosed. That's all it did. Whereas normal people, they get pollen in their nose and there's no problem. They just go about their daily business. Your body screwed up, misdiagnosed that as a threat. So now anytime it comes to the body, it has this massive response. And the response is designed, how epically awesome your body is, the response is designed to remove the particles, remove the problem. So your eyes get puffy so no more can get in there. They itch, they water, scratch them out. Your nose gets runny or stuffed up so nothing is trying to push it out. Cough, you sneeze, all designed to get rid of the problem. So, or at least not to let any more in. Well, autoimmune disorders are very similar. So if you take like Hashimoto's disease, one of the girls has Hashimoto's disease, and that's where the autoimmune system attacks the thyroid, and your thyroid doesn't work as well, and you get hypothyroidism. So all the hormones that your thyroid makes, it doesn't do it very well anymore, or doesn't do it at all, and so you start having all these problems related to that. Gout, rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, like there's lupus. There's so many autoimmune disorders in which lupus is a horrible, where there's no telling where the autoimmune response is going to go. You know, it's all over the place. Skin, nervous system. So there's just no telling where it's going to. And how that's related to wheat and dairy, food allergies in general. So if your body thinks there's a problem and it has an autoimmune reaction, so let's say you eat something, it goes down into your stomach and into your small intestines. Your intestinal lining is very thin, and on the other side of the intestinal lining is your blood supply. So anything that the body deems as a threat releases a massive amount of your immune response to that area, and it causes swelling. You know, just like people that aren't allergic to poison ivy, what happens? It causes swelling on the skin, get it away from the skin, itching, so you'll scratch it off, all this immune response. Well, that happens inside you as well. So people with like irritable bowel syndrome or cholecystitis or problems, consistent problems with their gut, a lot of times that's related to some sort of food allergy, albeit gluten, dairy, soy, peanuts, shellfish. Usually shellfish and peanuts give an immediate response, but the minor inconsistencies with, say, wheat cause immune response in the belly. Well, if you eat it all the time, you constantly have all these problems: gas, diarrhea, upset stomach, pain. Like IBS can be very painful. So I've dealt with IBS, asthma, which also an autoimmune response, be it genetic, still an immune response, and these skin disorders. And after all these years with these dermatologists not being able to tell me what it was, my grandmother, in her infinite wisdom, said, well, maybe you've got celiac sprue. And I was like, what is that? That's what they used to call it. She said, well, it's an allergy to wheat. And I said, do you have that? And she's like, yeah, it's genetic. And I was like, okay. She said, well, I eat it, it gives me the trots, which that's an old people term for diarrhea. And she was really, she had true celiac. Like, she could not eat wheat. It made her deathly ill. The other part of that, which is even more dangerous, is the cells, like the wheat gluten molecule itself, or the sugar that's in dairy, the actual sugar. The molecule of the wheat gluten looks almost identical to those cells in your throat that are in your thyroid. So, if your immune response says, oh, we misdiagnosed this, wheat's bad for us, we need to attack this, and it's close to this, what happens? Your autoimmune response starts to attack your thyroid. That's Hashimoto's disease. There's been a huge amount of linkage between the sugar that's in dairy and your pancreas cells that make insulin. So there's been a large link to dairy consumption in childhood type 1 diabetics, as their autoimmune response attacks the pancreas and kills those cells that make insulin, and they become diabetics. They have to have insulin taken in from outside of their body. So even more dangerous than, you know, the upset stomach, which can be horrifically dangerous. And I don't know for sure, but my nephew, it's not my nephew, he's my cousin, he was young, he was 12 years old, He always had constipation or diarrhea. He had a lot of problems, and I think over a long period of time, his actual colon perforated, and he got septic, and he passed away. So if you have all these problems, say with IBS, it is absolutely doing harm to your system as your autoimmune response attacks your body over and over and over. Same thing with, like, say, people that have heartburn, like actual GERD, like as their muscles get weaker in the top part of their stomach, it burps up that acid into their esophagus, and the people that have that damage over and over and over and over, and they don't get it under control, have a huge increased chance of getting esophageal cancer. I can't remember what the percentage. I think it's people with gluten allergies have a 4 times more likely chance of getting. It's one of the types of cancer. I honestly can't remember. So there's been a huge increase in it, and they say, well, it's monitoring systems. It's because we've gotten better at discovering it. It's actually not. They did another study where they took serum, like dried blood, from people in the 40s and 50s and compared it, and they didn't have near the response of the gluten allergies as they do now. So there's like 300-400% increase. So the increase, you have to ask why. And have we changed wheat over all these years? And believe it or not, a lot of people say, well, it's because it's genetically modified. Wheat's actually not genetically modified. Corn, soy, God knows what else. Wheat is hybridized. So they take all these wheat plants and they cross, what is that word? I can't think of the word. Cross-pollinate? Yeah. So they actually take, the wheat plant with the strongest genes, or that's resistant to Roundup, which is a common chemical used for weeds around crops, and they just keep making that stronger and stronger and stronger connection, and so you have a hybridized, which is a genetic offset of the original wheat product. It's actually different. Not to mention they spray it with so many chemical fertilizers, and they use chemicals in the soil and all this other crap. There has been a massive change in your wheat. It's not genetically modified, but it is very different. So that being said, there's a huge change in the product itself. Not to mention the standard American diet, which is devoid of fiber, plants in general. Your intestinal flora, the bacteria in your gut, live off of what you eat. If you change your diet in any way, it changes the intestinal flora, because they die off. If you don't give them food, they die off in certain ranges. So it changes literally how your system works. So if you have got this huge immune response, and so if you have any of these autoimmune disorders, if you have Hashimoto's, if you have rheumatoid arthritis, any of those, you can do one of two things. A, you can do what I did and play around. I don't know how much the blood tests are. I think they're fairly expensive. You can go get a blood test and see if you're actually allergic to any, because it may be the 3 things in your grocery store that you eat. Probably 99% of food in the grocery store is soy, corn, and wheat. Like every box of any kind of cereal, noodles, anything that you walk into the grocery store, those 3 products are our main dietary intake. I mean, in some way, shape, or form. Soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, any kind of wheat gluten products. So if you have an autoimmune disorder, it's imperative that you get either the blood test or start playing around with taking things out of your diet. And so what that looks like is, say, you take wheat gluten, which a year ago was damn near impossible, but now it's become such a craze, they've modified foods where the first wheat-free products tasted like absolute hot garbage. So they've modified it to the point where you can almost buy anything that's wheat-free now. Try it for 2 weeks, get off it, and then spend a day eating a lot of wheat products. If you feel like shit, chances are you have at least an intolerance. And it's a good reason just to cut it out of your diet. Either altogether or at least cut way back on it. I don't completely. It's not completely out of my diet. That being said, if I eat too much of it, I do start to get skin problems. But I don't eat a lot of it. It's like meat. I don't eat a lot of meat either. Like, I'll eat it on occasion. I don't keep myself from it completely, but so try and remove those things from your diet and then introduce them back in and see what the effects are. Because it may not be, you may not have been diagnosed with anything. You may just have low energy, and that could be an immune response of some sort. So try it. I know it seems like for those of you that actually have a wheat allergy and it's new, it's a hard adjustment. It's a hard adjustment at first because so much of our food that we love to eat has wheat in it. In the long run, though, if you'll take and cut down on those wheat products and really start eating, nobody's allergic. Most people aren't allergic to fruits and vegetables. If you'll start eating more fruits and vegetables, which is so where our problem is in America. Yes, meat. I have a lot of opinions about meat and dairy, but the fact that we eat less than one serving of fruit and vegetable a day on average has caused so many problems in our health and our obesity epidemic. And the same thing with wheat. Wheat goes through 7 steps before it gets to white flour. 7 processes, the bran stripped away, the oil stripped away, like everything that is good for you in wheat is stripped out of it to white powder that is so strong that it's instantaneously, like they tell diabetics, well, don't eat fruit because you'll get an insulin response. Bullshit. Don't eat white bread because that's 100% insulin response. Like it's metabolized by the body so fast that there's no processing, there's no fiber in it, there's all the good stuff's been pretty much taken out of it, and it's just macronutrients. It's literally just carbohydrates. So start introducing whole foods back into your diet, and if you have a week, just try not to get too discouraged. And the other thing I would say, if you have to go to gluten-free pizzas and gluten-free chips and all this other stuff, try to start veering away from that and go back towards a whole foods. Eat more plants, albeit sweet potatoes, rice, grains, oatmeal. Just really, it's going to make a massive difference in your overall energy, your health, your well-being. So also, if you have any questions or personal questions that I can help with, you can find me on Facebook. It's just my name, Travis Schiffner. You can find me, my email is travesty, TRAVISTY 911 at yahoo.com. Yeah, hit me up. If you have any problems, if you want to work one-on-one, I'm open to that. I'm starting coaching. So, yeah, just let me know. I can help with just about anything health-oriented that you have a problem with. In the next couple of days, I'm going to do a video on actual diet, like how to get like the nuts and bolts of dieting, the nuts and bolts of how to lose weight. And one of the other things I want to talk about that's not really talked about at all is how you're like being an emotional eater. Like, I'm an emotional eater, kind of like, I always tell it a girl, but I am an emotional eater. Like, if I get upset, that's the avenue that I turn to. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and what we can do about that. Because the obesity epidemic in the United States is, well, around the world now, is horrific. I know, as a paramedic, the more and more people I pick up, the heavier they get. Our stretcher can hold 750 pounds, and we've had patients that our stretcher will not hold. Consistently, our patients get heavier and heavier and heavier. So, yeah, I'll be back on in a day or two to talk about that stuff. So, appreciate your time. Yeah, talk to you guys soon.